Hollywood doesn't worship fame, it worships power. And power always demands a satanic ritual. Behind the red carpets and award speeches are doors that only open after midnight. Whispered invitations, inverted symbols, and silence enforced through fear. Some stars rise overnight, others disappear after saying yes. The price isn't money, it's obedience, secrecy, and satanic loyalty. Tonight, we step inside the circle Hollywood prays you never see. The penthouse is silent, bathed in that weird cold blue light you only see in movies or high-end Beverly Hills morgues. It's 2 a.m. A young actress is pacing, clutching a glass of bourbon like a lifeline. Suddenly, dry paper-on-wood scratches echo from the front door. She freezes. Sliding across the floor is a matte black envelope. No stamp, no return address. Just a heavy wax seal embossed with a skeletal goat's head. Her hands are shaking as she breaks it. The card inside is thick, textured like old parchment. It reads, "Join the circle. Midnight. Wear your sins." GPS coordinates. The symbol she has seen in her nightmares. Fast forward, she's driving through a fog so thick it feels like the Hollywood Hills are trying to swallow her car. She reaches a gated estate that opens silently. Masked figures in heavy velvet robes beckon her toward a basement. A low, guttural chant vibrates in her very teeth. A cloaked hand offers her a silver dagger. She catches her reflection in a blood-red mirror. But it's not her anymore. Her shadow has horns. She screams, and then total darkness. Welcome back to the dark side of the algorithm. Look, we've all seen the Illuminati-confirmed memes, but the reality of Hollywood's occult underbelly is way weirder than a triangle on a dollar bill. We're talking about the whispered invite. In Tinseltown, you don't find the occult finds you once your name is big enough to be worth something. Let's start with a classic, because honestly, the 1960s were a wild time for people who loved the dark arts. Meet Jane Mansfield. She was the blonde bombshell with a genius-level IQ. But behind the scenes, she was allegedly deep in a pact with Anton LaVey, the guy who literally founded the Church of Satan. This wasn't just a PR stunt. Mansfield was a frequent guest at his black house, participating in full-blown rituals. But here's the chilling part. After her horrific car crash in 1967, Anton LaVey didn't offer condolences. Instead, he basically dropped the ultimate "I told you so," claiming the curse took her because she broke her vow of secrecy. LaVey was once recorded saying, "Stars come begging for power, but the devil always collects." Sammy Davis Jr. was the coolest man in the Rat Pack. In 1968, Sammy didn't just join the church, he became an ordained warlock. Can you imagine being at a party with Frank Sinatra, and suddenly Sammy starts hosting black mass mixers in the guest house? Even the Candyman eventually hit a limit though. He later admitted the lifestyle opened doors he couldn't close, describing a heavy dark energy that followed him until he distanced himself from the group. It makes you wonder what he saw behind those closed doors that scared a man who had everything. And if you think it was just actors getting mixed up with this darkness, let's talk about Hedy Lamarr. The woman was a literal genius who invented the tech that paved the way for your Wi-Fi. But industry whispers from the wartime era suggest she was involved in seances with rocket scientists who were obsessed with the teachings of Aleister Crowley. There are rumors that some of those groundbreaking patents weren't just flashes of genius. They were part of blood oaths for technological inspiration. Science and Satan? It's a more common crossover than you'd think. Fast forward to the modern era, and the invites have gone high-tech. We're hearing anonymous leaks about the order parties in the hills, where A-listers sign NDAs, not in ink, but in what's speculated to be biomatter. Yeah, use your imagination there. These aren't just parties, they are energy exchanges. You've seen the photos, stars looking totally drained, glitching on camera, or wearing bizarre ritualistic jewelry. Is it just high fashion, or are they signaling to the circle that they're still playing the game? There's a specific kind of hollow look that comes over a star after they've been in the industry for a decade. Some call it burnout, others call it the collection. The envelope is open, and you've stepped through the gates. But icons aren't just made by invitations. They're crafted by masters of the frame. Behind every star is a director holding a wand, and our next stop is the man who turned the cinema screen into a literal portal for the abyss. The theater is a rotting corpse of a building, tucked away in a corner of Los Angeles that the sun forgot to touch. An underground filmmaker, a young twitchy man, slips through a side door at dusk. The air inside is thick with the smell of vinegar and old dust. He sets up a projector, the machine humming like a swarm of angry hornets. As the film reels spin, flickering light hits the screen, revealing hooded figures in a trance, their voices chanting in a language that sounds like grinding stones. Suddenly the film catches, it bubbles, melts, and the flames on the screen lick upward to form a perfect glowing pentagram. Instead of running, the filmmaker kneels down, clasping his hands in prayer, tears in his eyes. He whispers to the empty room, "The demons are finally awake." On the screen, the dying embers of the film strip take the shape of Satan. Let's talk about Kenneth Anger, the man who basically invented the dark aesthetic of Hollywood. This guy wasn't just a director, he was a self-proclaimed magus, a sorcerer. To Anger, a movie camera wasn't a tool for entertainment, it was a literal wand used to cast spells on the audience. And honestly, looking at some of his work, he might have been onto something. Take his 1969 film, Invocation of My Demon Brother. This isn't something you'd find on a Friday night watch list with popcorn. It featured actual Aleister Crowley rituals performed by Navy sailors, who looked like they were in a genuine terrifying trance. The legend goes that Anger didn't just stage these scenes. He sourced footage from a cursed military ritual that had allegedly gone horribly wrong. He wanted that raw, jagged energy on screen. He wanted the viewer to feel like they were participating in something they shouldn't be seeing. Then there's Lucifer Rising. This is where the Hollywood curse starts to look less like a coincidence and more like a pattern. The film starred Marion Faithfull as Lilith, the primordial demon queen. During the shoot, Faithfull reportedly overdosed, later claiming that she had been targeted by the entities Anger had summoned on set. It gets darker. Anger had a massive falling out with director Donald Cammell, and in true occult fashion, he allegedly placed a formal hex on him. Years later, Cammell ended his own life in a way so bizarre and ritualistic that even the investigators were shaken. Anger once said in an interview, "My films are spells cast on the audience. Think about that next time you're binge-watching a dark series. Are you watching a story, or are you part of a ritual?" There are long-standing whispers about Anger's ties to Scientology's founder, L. Ron Hubbard, back in the pre-Hollywood days. Rumor has it there are thelemic sex magic tapes buried in high-security vaults that would make the modern internet collapse. We're talking about the foundations of Tinseltown being built on the teachings of Crowley, a man who called himself the Beast 666. And we can't talk about Anger without mentioning Bobby Beausoleil. Bobby was a musician who worked on Anger's soundtracks, but you might know him better as a member of the Manson family. He claimed the music he composed for Anger included Whispers from Hell, recorded during his time in the occult underground. Even after he was locked up for life, the darkness didn't stop. From behind bars, he continued to release eerie, ritualistic soundtracks that became the sonic Bible for occult communes across the globe. He didn't need to be free to spread the infection. But here's the obscure gem for the real conspiracy hunters: Hollywood Babylon 2. This was Anger's legendary tell-all book, but the unpublished drafts that leaked into the deep web are way more intense than the version you can buy at a bookstore. These drafts allegedly name huge 50s stars, names your grandparents loved, as participants in moonchild breeding rituals. We're talking about the literal creation of industry icons through occult means. It makes you look at the golden age of Hollywood a little differently, doesn't it? It wasn't just glitz and glamour, it was a carefully constructed altar. The frantic pace of the edits, the red-tinted filters of those old films, the jumpy nervous energy of the stars. It's all part of the Magus's design. Anger didn't want to make you famous, he wanted to make you a vessel. So the next time you see a flickering light in an old theater or a movie that feels a little too real, just remember, some directors aren't looking for an Oscar, they're looking for a sacrifice. The spells have been cast, and the film is still smoldering in the projector. But what happens when the magic leaves the basement and infects the entire production? We're moving from the Magus's studio to the cursed sets where the props started breathing and the stars began to fall. Thunder rattles the rafters of a massive soundstage, but it's not coming from the speakers. A director, sweating under the harsh studio lights, screams "action" as a group of actors in heavy robes circle a stone altar. It's supposed to be a prop, just plywood and spray paint, but the air starts to taste like ozone and copper. Without a breeze, the heavy ceremonial candles ignite simultaneously, their flames turning a jagged, unnatural violet. Shadows on the back wall begin to detach from the actors, twisting into long, clawed shapes that dance independently of the light. Suddenly, an extra in the background collapses, seizing and foaming at the mouth, his eyes rolling back to show nothing but a terrifying milky white. The crew freezes, whispering that the curse is finally here. Just as the lead actress reaches for the prop dagger, a bolt of lightning tears through the roof, striking the main camera. The expensive glass lens shatters into 1,000 pieces, and for a split second, the shards form the perfect image of a reptilian eye staring back at the survivors. Now it's time to talk about hexed sets and doomed stars. This isn't just bad luck or the heat of the moment. This is what happens when Hollywood tries to play with real fire and ends up burning the whole house down. Let's start with the big one. Rosemary's Baby. Roman Polanski didn't just want a scary movie, he wanted authenticity. He allegedly consulted real-life practitioners of the dark arts to make sure the rituals on screen were accurate. Well, be careful what you wish for. After the film dropped, the producer William Castle was hit with a debilitating kidney stone that he claimed was shaped like a pentagram. I mean, talk about a painful way to get a message from the universe. And we all know the tragic, horrific fate of Polanski's wife Sharon Tate at the hands of the Manson family. It's like the movie invited a darkness that refused to leave once the cameras stopped rolling. Then we have The Omen. This set was so cursed it honestly sounds like a bad creepypasta, but it's all documented. The director Richard Donner had his plane literally struck by lightning. Then the star Gregory Peck's son took his own life just days before filming a scene involving, you guessed it, a suicide. Donner famously said, "Something unholy followed us." They were making a movie about the Antichrist, and it seems the subject matter took it personally, and we can't skip the poltergeist curse. The production used real human skeletons because apparently plastic ones were too expensive. The result? Actress Dominique Dunne was tragically killed by her ex shortly after the release. And young Heather O'Rourke died mysteriously at just 12 years old. It's like the film opened a revolving door to the other side. But let's look at some of the obscure stuff the mainstream media doesn't like to touch. Take the Twilight Zone movie from 1983. A horrific helicopter crash killed 3 actors on set. The conspiracy? Rumors suggest director John Landis had hired a voodoo consultant to bring a raw primal energy to the production. People whisper that the accident wasn't just a mechanical failure, but a literal price paid for that energy. Then there's The Crow. Brandon Lee, son of the legendary Bruce Lee, was killed by a prop gun that somehow had a real fragment lodged in it. This happened right as he was finishing a film about a soul returning from the dead. People point back to Bruce Lee's dragon curse, claiming that the family was being hunted by occult enemies they'd offended decades prior. It's like a generational debt that the industry keeps collecting. Even the music world isn't safe. Look at Kurt Cobain. The In Utero album art was packed with ritualistic imagery and anatomical dolls that look suspiciously like offerings. After his death, heavy whispers started circulating in the underground that label executives had essentially sacrificed his image for a massive spike in sales. They say the industry loves a dead legend more than a living artist because a ghost can't argue with a contract. The patterns are everywhere. Whether it's accidental fires, mysterious illnesses, or stars vanishing into thin air, these sets seem to be magnets for something we don't understand. Are these just coincidences? Or is there a specific frequency that these films tap into? A frequency that attracts things from the shadows. The sets are ashes, and the accidents have been filed away in studio vaults. But the survivors didn't just walk away. They started talking in hushed tones and frantic leaks. It's time to move past the rumors of the dead and listen to the terrifying whispers of the living. The interior of a cramped wooden confessional booth smells like old incense and cold sweat. A high-profile celebrity, someone you'd recognize from every supermarket tabloid, is huddled in the dark, her hands trembling as she fumbles with a hidden digital recorder. Outside, the church is silent, but then comes the sound. Heavy, rhythmic footsteps echoing against the stone floor. Thud, thud. A shadow eclipses the small wooden grate. A voice, sounding like dry leaves skittering over a grave, hisses through the screen, "Reveal the circle, and your soul is forfeit." The door of the booth begins to rattle under the pressure of invisible claws. She doesn't wait. She bolts out the side exit, sprinting into the midnight fog of Hollywood, only to look back and see 2 glowing red embers staring at her from the darkness. This is where the conspiracy label starts to peel off, revealing the uncomfortable truth underneath. We aren't just looking at old movie sets anymore. We're looking at the living, breathing testimonies of people who actually made it to the top and realized the view was absolutely hellish. Let's talk about David Bowie. In the mid-70s, during his Thin White Duke era, Bowie wasn't just doing a lot of, let's call them star-dusted substances. He was living in a state of absolute occult paranoia. He reportedly moved to Los Angeles and became convinced that witches were trying to steal his DNA to create a moonchild. He allegedly performed daily exorcisms on his swimming pool and drew protective pentagrams on every surface of his house. Why? Because he had been hanging out with Jimmy Page, who was so obsessed with Aleister Crowley, he literally bought the man's cursed house. Bowie claimed he was seeing entities that didn't belong in this dimension, and he spent years trying to scrub the ritual residue off his career. Then you've got Rose McGowan. After the whole Weinstein collapse, Rose didn't just go after the predators. She started calling out what she termed Hollywood covens. She's gone on record multiple times hinting that the power structures in the hills aren't just about money. They're about ritualistic abuse and sacred control. She once tweeted about elites drinking from a chalice of control, which, let's be real, is a pretty specific choice of words. And who could forget Elijah Wood? In a 2016 interview that sent shockwaves through the industry, the guy we all know as Frodo dropped a massive truth bomb. He claimed that organized elite rings in Hollywood often mask their activities behind satanic cult imagery to groom young stars. He wasn't talking about a movie script. He was talking about his peers. When a guy who's been in the industry since he was a kid tells you there's a monster in the closet, you should probably believe him. Now, let's get into the obscure and weird category. Remember when Azealia Banks posted a video of herself cleaning out a closet covered in 3 years' worth of dried chicken feathers? She claimed she was practicing brujeria, witchcraft, to stay ahead in the music industry. She even claimed she had hexed rivals like Nicki Minaj. While most people just called it celebrity erratic behavior, the occult community saw it for what it was, a public display of a blood debt ritual. Then there's the legendary Bob Dylan. In an interview that still creeps people out, he was asked why he was still performing at his age. He looked the interviewer dead in the eye and said he made a deal a long time ago with the chief commander of this world and the world we can't see. I don't know about you, but that doesn't sound like he's talking about his talent agent. Finally, we have Zachary King. He's an ex-Satanist who claims he reached the highest levels of the World Council of 13 before converting to Christianity. In his interviews, he doesn't hold back. He claims he personally initiated multiple household name A-listers into blood rights, trading their loyalty for the golden touch of fame. He describes these stars not as villains but as property, people who sold their autonomy for a star on the Walk of Fame. The insiders have spoken, and the secrets are out of the confessional and into the light. But these covens don't just meet to talk, they meet to eat. We're heading to the most exclusive guest list in the world, where the menu is sacred, the blood is real, and the seat at the table costs everything you are. The gala is dripping with gold. The kind of event where the watch on a guest's wrist costs more than your childhood home. A young starlet, trying to look like she belongs, takes a sip from an ornate silver goblet offered by a waiter in a porcelain mask. It hits her throat like liquid fire, bitter, metallic, and way too thick. Suddenly, the room distorts. The laughter sounds like hyenas, and the flickering chandeliers reveal flashes of writhing shadow-like bodies pinned to the walls. Panicking, she stumbles through a set of velvet curtains into a hidden back room. There, the elites aren't networking. They're standing around a massive table where a cake shaped exactly like a hyper-realistic human is being carved with surgical precision. A heavy ringed hand suddenly clamps over her mouth, muffling her gasp as the heavy oak door slams shut with a bone-chilling thud. Welcome to Spirit Feasts and Elite Tables. This is where the spooky vibes turn into wait, are they actually doing this? We're diving into the world of Marina Abramovich and the bizarre culinary habits of the Hollywood elite. Now, if you've spent any time on the weird side of the internet, you've heard of spirit cooking. It sounds like a bad Netflix reboot of a cooking show, but the reality is much more stomach-turning. Marina is the world's most famous performance artist. But to the conspiracy world, she's the high priestess of the industry. Her dinners aren't about pasta and wine. We're talking about art pieces involving pig's blood, breast milk, and fresh morning urine. Sounds delicious, right? But here's the kicker. Huge names like Lady Gaga have been seen training with Marina. Remember Gaga's infamous meat dress at the 2010 VMAs? While the public thought it was a statement on animal rights, occult researchers saw it as a massive public ritual homage to the flesh feasts hosted by the elite. Gaga herself has spoken about Abramovich teaching her pain endurance, which is a weirdly specific skill for a pop star to need. But it's not just Gaga. In 2015, James Franco, ever the experimentalist, hosted an Abramovich-inspired art show that reportedly involved live bloodletting. Attendees allegedly had to sign soul waivers before entering. I don't care how much you love modern art. If you have to sign away your soul to see a gallery, you're not at an art show, you're at an initiation. Marina herself once famously said, "Art is the door to the infernal." She's not even hiding it, guys. She's literally giving us the manual. Then we have the infamous Podesta emails. When WikiLeaks dropped those, the internet went into a meltdown over pizza codes. While the mainstream media debunked Pizzagate, the actual emails mentioned spirit cooking dinners by name. It linked high-level political figures and Hollywood moguls to James Alefantis and his restaurant Comet Ping Pong, which was plastered with occult symbols and art that looked like a crime scene. Whether or not you believe the codes, the connection between the highest offices of power and these dark, ritualistic feasts is a matter of public record. Let's go even more obscure. Have you heard of Tilda Swinton's 2013 The Maybe exhibit? She literally slept in a glass box at the MoMA for days. While it looked like a high-concept nap, industry insiders whispered that it was actually an overnight summoning ritual, where VIPs could come and exchange essence with her while she was in a deep meditative trance. Then there's Chris Burden, an artist whose work influenced everyone in Hollywood. He literally had someone shoot him in the arm for an art piece. This kind of ritual mimicry became a staple for celebs who wanted to prove they were hardcore enough for the inner circle. Even the musician Peaches has been linked to blood play shows, claiming she's been invited to elite tables to feast on essence. It's all about consumption, not of food, but of energy, life, and if you believe the whispers, human spirit. These tables aren't just for eating. They're for making deals that the rest of us couldn't even imagine. It's the ultimate power lunch, where the menu is your morality. They say you are what you eat, and if that's true, the people running Tinseltown are made of something very, very dark. The feast is over, but the hunger of the elite is never satisfied. We've seen the history, the hexes, and the tables of the past, but the circle is closing on the present day. Strap in, because the final pact is being signed right now, on your screens, in your feed, and in the final circle. A modern star, the kind with 100 million followers and a flawless skincare line, awakens on a cold stone floor. Her wrists are bound with silk cords, and she's sitting in the center of a perfect circle of black beeswax candles. The air is thick with the scent of burning sage and something metallic, like a penny under your tongue. Around her, 13 hooded figures sway in unison, their faces hidden behind gold leaf masks. They aren't speaking. They're vibrating a single low-frequency hum that makes the marrow in her bones ache. The pact renews, a voice booms, seemingly coming from the walls themselves. She manages to kick free, sprinting through a hallway lined with floor-to-ceiling mirrors. But in every reflection, she isn't running. She's standing still, her eyes replaced by voids, whispering accusations about the things she did to get famous. She hits a final door, throws it open, and finds only a wall of roaring violet flames. Her scream echoes, and as the screen cracks like shattered glass, the hum suddenly stops. If you've made it this far, you're officially too deep to turn back. We've looked at the history, the hexed sets, and the weird dinners. But now we have to talk about the rituals that are happening right now. This isn't just old Hollywood lore. The Circle has updated its operating system. Take the 1996 movie The Craft. It's a cult classic, right? But what happened behind the scenes is legitimately insane. The production reportedly hired real Wiccan priestesses to ensure the spells were authentic. After the film wrapped, real-life covens actually tried to sue the studio, claiming their sacred intellectual property had been stolen and misused for entertainment. But look at the lead, Fairuza Balk. After the movie, she didn't just move on to a rom-com. She literally bought a famous occult shop in LA and was rumored to host high-stakes seances for the young Hollywood elite. It's like the role wasn't a character, it was a career path. Then we have American Horror Story Coven. They didn't just hire consultants, they brought in actual voodoo priestesses from New Orleans to bless the set. But apparently the blessings didn't stick to everyone. Rumor has it that Emma Roberts was so deep into the vibe of the show that she allegedly placed a binding hex on an ex-boyfriend after a nasty breakup. When the lines between a script and a spell get that blurry, someone is going to get burned. Even Matt Skiba from Blink-182 went on a podcast and claimed his spells were the reason the infamous Fire Festival burned down. He's not joking. He genuinely believes he used the dark arts to sabotage an elite event. But let's get into the heavy hitters. Have you heard of the cremation of care? Every year, the world's most powerful men, including Hollywood moguls and studio heads, gather at Bohemian Grove to burn an effigy in front of a giant stone owl. They call it symbolic. But leaked footage shows a ritual that looks a lot more like a pagan sacrifice than a corporate retreat. Insiders claim that some of the biggest, darkest scripts in Hollywood are actually inspired by the visions they have during these midsummer ceremonies. And then there's the pop world. Katy Perry's Dark Horse video was so packed with Egyptian occultism that it actually triggered a fatwa. But the real tea? Her ex, John Mayer, has dropped some seriously cryptic warnings about industry demons and the price of staying at the top. Even Elon Musk, the king of the techno elite, spends his time at Burning Man offshoots where simulation theory starts looking a lot like a digital religion. Some conspiracists believe these techno rituals are actually a way to harvest digital souls through our screens. Think about it. Why is every major music video now a montage of symbols, triangles, and one-eye signs? Is it just a trend? Or is it a digital sigil designed to bind the audience to the performer? We're seeing anonymous invites to virtual circles on encrypted apps, where fans can join the energy of their favorite stars. It's the whispered invite, but it's coming through your TikTok feed. So here we are at the center of the labyrinth. Hollywood isn't just a place where they make movies. It's a giant flickering altar, where the fuel is fame and the currency is your attention. The circle is always looking for new members, and the pact is always up for renewal. You came here looking for a story. But in the world of the occult, looking is a form of participation. The screen is dark, the circle is closed, and now that you know the truth, you're officially part of the secret. Is the circle calling you, or are you already inside?